Hello, my name is Burak Güzel, and this is CodeIgniter from scratch, day number 8. And our subject is using jQuery and Ajax with CodeIgniter. Um, we're going to continue from where Jeff left off last time, and it was the day 6 and day 7. Actually, day 7 was sort of a independent code, so we're not going to get into that. We're just going to continue from day number 6. You can find it on the website at net.tutsplus.com, and if you go to the day 6 article, you can see there's a link for getting the source code. And since it's been a while since these articles, we're going to get the source code and take a few minutes to set it up properly again so we can continue working on it. So download the source code, which I have, and I got it and I extracted it in my web folder. I put it under CI_series. You can choose a different URL. So this will be accessible for me by going to localhost/CI_series. I'm using a web server called WAMP, or it's a package, includes Apache and MySQL, PHP, etc. Um, so let's see if this runs, and I don't expect it to run properly. Well, we'll get some errors, and here it's important to point out that some of these errors are related to um, CodeIgniter not being compatible with PHP 5.3, and that's the old version of the CodeIgniter, and they updated it since then. And so we can go ahead and go to the CodeIgniter website to update CodeIgniter. The newest version is 1.7.2. I believe the last one Jeff used was 1.7.1. It has a small problem with PHP 5.3. So go ahead and download this, and I got it here. I downloaded it to my computer, extracted the contents, and I'm going to go to my project where I have the day 6 source code, and I'm going to delete the system folder. So this will delete all the core files, all the main CodeIgniter files, and not my application files. And this way, I'm only deleting the core files, and I can update by getting just the system file from the new version 1.7.2 into my project. And I didn't have to touch my application or anything, and CodeIgniter is now upgraded to version 1.7.2. So if we refresh the page, we'll see that all of those errors are gone except just the database error, which is normal because we haven't set up our database connections yet. So let's go back and find application folder, the config folder, and database.php file where the settings are for the database. Here for my case, I'm using localhost. Username is root, and I'm just going to delete the password because I have no password, and I'm going to use the same database name. So make sure these settings are suitable for your setup. So I'm just going to close that. That's the only one change I had to do. And if I reload, I'm going to see if it reloads. Yes, there it is. Now the page is loading. Oh, I forgot to mention that I already created this database called CI_series, which is just empty, and I just went through phpMyAdmin and created this. So anyway, so we're loading something, but it's not quite right. It's not styled or anything. There's just no styling. As you remember from the article, the form looked something like this. There was some styling. Um, so what's that? What's the cause of this? If you look at the source code, you'll see that the URL to the CSS file is not right. So we have to just change one more little thing. We can close this window, go to the source code, and go to config.php file where you can change the base URL. So in this case, I'm using localhost/ci series, and I can close that again after saving it. And now when I reload, everything seems fine. Um, so yeah, but there is one more thing we have to do because we don't have any tables. From the last article, there was a table called memberships. Let's create that real quick. Um, okay, I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly. The table name is membership. It has 6 fields. There's an ID field. It's auto increment, primary, and there's the first name, which is a varchar 25. There's a last name, it's also varchar 25. There's a username field and password field. The password field is 32 characters because it's MD5 encoded string, which is 32 bytes long all the time. Email address is 50, I believe, yes. That's all you have to do, just create the table. It should be straightforward, and now we should be ready to go. Um, well, we don't have any accounts yet, so we can actually go to the create account page, and let's create, I'm going to create an account for myself, and username is also my name. Oops, and password could be 123456. Okay, great. So seems like everything is working. Let's also test the login. Yeah, so it goes to the members access page and the logout link is working. Okay, great. So we got to the point where we can continue where we left off and start doing some jQuery and Ajax work. So let's look at the situation with jQuery. I believe Jeff included jQuery already in these pages. Um, let's go to the views folder. He created a simple template system where we go into the includes folder. You can see these template files. This template.php view is loaded every time, and it loads the header, and there's a main content view, and then there's a footer. For example, this main content could be the login form. Here you can see there's the login form view, which is just, well, there's a little mistake here. The header shouldn't be here again, and the footer should not be here. I believe we can take the tut info also into the template file. All right. So yeah, in the template file, the main content is passed along, which could be, let's say, the login form, which is only just like one div, and it's just the main contents of the page. So every page is loading a header and footer. If you look at the header, I'm not seeing jQuery here. There's one more little mistake. We should remove this slash. If you go to footer.php, okay, here's where Jeff included the jQuery script source code here. So when we look at the pages, let me refresh this. If you look at the source code, you'll see at the bottom it's included. And if you go to another page, like the create account page, look at the source code again, it's right there. Something is repeated here. I think I just need to refresh because of the cache. No. Let me go back. I guess in the sign up form. All right, these are not needed anymore because they're used from the template. Okay. I refresh. Yes. jQuery is at the bottom. It's only once. Okay, the header is repeated also. I gotta fix that too. Sign up form. Yes, this header should not be in the sign up form. All right. And let me check this file. Okay, this is correct. All right. So the pages will load the jQuery library, and we'll be able to start working with it and doing some Ajax. Now, there is no Ajax library that comes with CodeIgniter. There are only some user submitted ones. But we're going to be writing it ourselves. Well, we're not going to be writing a library, but we're going to write our own Ajax function calls, and we are already including jQuery in our application in our every page. So we're not going to be using some sort of framework specific or CodeIgniter specific Ajax here. We're just going to communicate with CodeIgniter's server-side functionality from our front page. For example, a good practice for that would be creating a contact us form. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's start with creating a contact um, controller and the view that will go with it. You can close this, close that too. Yeah. Let's create contact.php under controllers. Now this will be accessible by going to the site URL / contact, and as always just call the name of the class the same as the controller and extend the controller class. So let's just make the default function, which is index, and to test things, let's go ahead and echo contact to make sure it's working. If you go to site URL / contact, there it is. So now we need a view to go with this. Um, we can copy some stuff from the, for example, the login controller. Here, the way we did last time was we specify which view we're going to load. So I'm going to copy paste that. So our main content will be, instead of login form, let's make it contact form. And then we have to load the template and pass that to the template. And so that means we need to create a view named contact form. And again, we can cheat a little bit and copy from the login form. I'm just going to copy the whole thing for now. And instead of the login, we'll just say contact us. And let's submit this to the contact controller. This form open call, in this you specify which controller and controller function. Let's go ahead and say submit, and we ask for a person's name, and we ask for, let's say, an email address. This should also be an input. Email address, and there should be a text area. So it's the form text area function, and the parameters are we have to specify the columns and rows. The way this function works is a little different than the other form input functions. We have to provide basically an array. Let's go data, and here we put the name. So it could be message, and then we put the columns. I'm not sure what's a good value. Let's try 30, and rows could be like 15, and we pass that as the first variable, and the value will be like message, and so instead of login we're going to use just submit to submit the message. Let's see what it looks like. Alright, here it is. Well, that's a little too low, so let me go ahead and modify the style sheet real quick. It's too low. Margin should be maybe just 100, and I want to apply these styles to text area as well, and I want to make it 35 columns and maybe just 12 rows. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's much better. I'm going to make one more change. Going to the contact form, I'm going to change this to contact form to be consistent, and so to have the style again, I'm going to add it to the CSS file, so it has the same style as login form. That's that, and it should be the same. It looks good. So let's make this form functional. When we submit the form right now, we get a 404 because the contact/submit function has not been implemented yet. Like, let's go back and let's see if we can do this. Let's go to contact controller and just create the submit function. That's all. In this function, we can accept that form's output, or getting it as an input, as a post input, like the name, but we're not going to go over the whole form validation and database interaction subjects because our focus is not that right now. You can take this input, store it in the database, or email it, whatever, but after you're done, we want to output some kind of thank you message for their submission. So let's load a different view. So we can copy paste this part and use the same code to load a different view. Let's say contact submit, or contact submitted maybe, and create the view with that name as a PHP file with the same name and similar to the contact form. Let's copy this, and I want to have it same style, so that's why I copied it from the contact form, and instead of contact us, it's just going to say thank you for sending us a message. So when we submit now, we should get that thank you message. So let's go back and let's see how we can make this form Ajax powered, so that it submits without reloading the page. This is not the best example because there's nothing else on the page, so we don't actually see the benefit. But if you have a heavy website with a lot of content in it and you have one little form somewhere in it, when you submit that form, it's nice that if the whole page stays intact and just the form itself does interaction, and you don't have the whole page reloading. Okay, now let's go back to the code. In those form input fields, I'm going to add some IDs so that from JavaScript I can reference them easier. Just passing a third parameter which is used for additional HTML fields. I'm going to show you in a bit. Let's call this message, and we also need an ID on the submit button. All right. So if we load the page, the source, look at the source. Uh, in these input fields, you'll see the IDs have been added, just as we added as the third parameter uh, into those form helper functions. Now let's add the script tag into here because it's related to the contact form. We should keep the script tag here also. But before we can do that, we need to adjust something. Because here I'm going to call like jQuery functions, which is the $, blah blah blah. The jQuery library has to be included before I can do this. So if you recall, it was in the footer instead of the header. So I'm just gonna take it out of the footer and put it in the header file. Alright, that's all. Now they will be able to work. So to the submit button, we're going to select the submit button like this in jQuery and assign an on-click event, a function. So this should return false so that the button doesn't actually submit. If you refresh the page, now you see, oh wait, we made a little mistake here. Should be just click instead of on click. Anyway, yeah, refresh. Now when you hit submit, it's not going anywhere. We disabled the functionality of the button and we're replacing that with something else. So here we can get the values of the form fields. Let's put them into an array because we're going to submit this array through Ajax. So we can get the name, select the value, and same thing with email. Select the value, and last thing is message. And value. Here, now next thing to do is to call the Ajax function, which is just $sign dot Ajax. This is the jQuery Ajax function. There are other ways of doing it too, but this is a good way. So we have to pass a few parameters here. It's not going to be a function, sorry, this is just going to be an array. We pass a URL, and here we need to pass the same URL as we did for the form. So it's going to echo it with PHP. You can get the URL like this. So this is a URL helper function called site URL. You just submit, you just post you just put the controller name and the function name, and it builds the full URL to it. And then we want to post it just like the main form, and the data of the post will be the form data variable we just created just now right here. And upon success, we need to do something. So the success will be a callback function, and this callback function receives a parameter, let's call it message, and this parameter will be the output coming from this controller. For example, if we just, let's say we want to output it using an alert. Let's see what we're getting. Let's go back to this page, refresh. So when we submit, okay, in the alert message, we received like the full HTML of the output where you see the thank you message. This is that view with the full header and footer and everything. So we don't want to use it like this. We just want the middle content where we're going to take this content and place it into the contact form. So let's do something like this. In the form data, let's put a field called Ajax and set it to like 1, and in our controller we can check for that. So is Ajax equals this input post Ajax. Now this is a post field, just like the other form field. It's going to come from this Ajax call, just like name, email, message. We just added this artificially. It's going to be posted, so we can see that variable. And if it is Ajax, we do something. Otherwise, we do what we've been doing. That something will be just loading the view of contact submitted. Or we can just take this out and go like that so we don't repeat. Alright, so what happens here is if well, I can also take this and put it here instead. Oops. Right. So if it's if there's Ajax going on, we just directly load this view. So we only get this part of the output. It's only this view. If it's not, we pass it along to the template and then do the whole thing as we've been doing. So let's refresh this page, and when we submit, as you see, the message received from the server is only that part. Now we can take that and replace the contents of this form with that output. So let's go back to our JavaScript code here. Now, ideally there would be another container outside of the contact form, but we don't have that. Our next container will be the body. So I'm just going to put this in the body tag for now. So we can change the contents of any selected DOM element by calling the HTML function, and we'll pass along this message. And just let's look at it, refresh and submit, and there it is. It just said thank you. And as I said, if we use the container, it could have been better. For example, we lost that footer here. For example, what we can do is in the template file here we can include the main content div around that. Let me just close this. All right, let me close this too. Okay, now instead of using body, we can just use main content, so we don't mess with everything else in the body. Let's go back to the browser and refresh the page. So now when we submit. Now the footer and everything is intact. So what else can be done? Since this is an Ajax powered form, we can do more things like validate user input. So if before you do all of this, you can just check to see if, let's say, did the user enter their name. So if let's it might be better to store this in a variable called name and then work on it. So if there's no name, or uh, if name is equal to name, because that was our default value. As you can see here, it just says name. So if they submit it like that, we're not going to accept it. So if this happens, let's say we can go and say, please enter your name, and then just return false right there. So let's refresh this page, test this. So here, just click submit. It says please enter your name. Okay, now nothing got submitted. So this is the power of Ajax, where you can check for user input before submitting, and you can submit directly without reloading the page. So let's say I put my name. Now it's going to let me submit. So yeah, the uh, the opportunities here are limitless. You can do all kinds of form validation. You can set uh, custom messages in your returns and update the page accordingly. As I mentioned earlier, CodeIgniter doesn't have a core library for Ajax, so this is mostly up to your creativity here. You just have to be a little familiar with jQuery and Ajax, and then you can start integrating that into CodeIgniter. And so to summarize, what we have done is we included the jQuery library in our template and made sure it's loaded on every page, and then we built a form that works regularly, and then improved it by letting it work with Ajax. And the nice thing about it is now, since we already built the form that would work without JavaScript, if somebody's browser doesn't have JavaScript enabled, this will still work. Ajax here is like a bonus, so we can add it onto it, and then override the default functionality by returning false on the click event, for example, and then do all this extra stuff. And also, one more important thing is to make CodeIgniter realize that a request is coming as an Ajax call. For example, that's why we added this Ajax parameter to our submitted data, and we are able to check from our controller if the incoming request is Ajax or not, and respond accordingly. Another option could be to load a different URL for Ajax, like a different function under the same controller, like it could be submit underscore Ajax or something, and you would write a different function. So yeah, it's about being creative about it, and there's no exact standards on this thing. We covered this subject today because it was the most requested subject on the CodeIgniter from Scratch series from your messages on nettuts.com. Next episode, we'll cover something more related to server-side PHP programming and CodeIgniter's framework utilities. And I hope you learned something from today's tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Bye.